Following breaking news overnight where the United States dropped bombs on Iran, destroying 3 nuclear sites. It's the first time the U.S. has attacked Iran directly and is considered a major escalation of the conflict between Iran and Israel. Last night, President Donald Trump announced the extent of those strikes. Take a listen.
Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
Shortly after the attack, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu thanked President Donald Trump for sending U.S. forces to attack Iran's key nuclear sites, saying the attack will change history and help lead the Middle East to a future of prosperity and peace.
America has been truly unsurpassed. It has done what no other country on earth could do. First comes strength, then comes peace. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel thank you. The forces of civilization thank you. God bless America. God bless Israel.
Iran responding to those strikes sent by the U.S. with missile strikes in central Israel. This is new video showing the aftermath. Several 2-story buildings reduced to rubble. So far, at least 21 people were hurt in the strikes. New this morning, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth spoke about the U.S. operation, saying Iran's nuclear ambitions are now obliterated. Take a listen.
It was an incredible and overwhelming success. The order we received from our commander-in-chief was focused, it was powerful, and it was clear. We devastated the Iranian nuclear program. But it's worth noting the operation did not target Iranian troops or the Iranian people. As President Trump has stated, the United States does not seek war. But let me be clear, we will act swiftly and decisively when our people, our partners, or our interests are threatened. Iran should listen to the President of the United States and know that he means it, every word.
Iran's foreign minister is condemning the U.S. for strikes on its nuclear facilities, saying, quote, the Islamic Republic of Iran condemns in the strongest terms the United States' brutal military aggression against Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities. It is an outrageous, grave, and unprecedented violation of the fundamental principles of the Charter of the United Nations and international law, end quote. Let's take a live look from the White House this morning, where President Trump announced that the United States is joining Israel's bid to weaken the country's nuclear program. Now, many countries are calling for diplomacy and caution amid fears of a wider regional conflict. Our Washington correspondent Jackie Fusco joins us live this morning. And Jackie, why did President Trump order these strikes on Iran?
Well, Leticia, the Pentagon was asked that question at a press conference earlier this morning. And what Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said is that the Trump administration is not seeking regime change, that they're not seeking war, and that these were targeted strikes aimed at Iran's nuclear facilities as opposed to Iran's people or its troops. But he was also asked about the possibility of this turning into a prolonged conflict. Take a listen.
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
No independent damage assessment was immediately available. The Atomic Energy Organization of Iran confirmed that attacks took place at these 3 sites and insisted that its nuclear program, which the country says is peaceful, will not be stopped. In a lengthy statement, Iran's foreign ministry said the U.S. has launched a dangerous war against Iran and betrayed diplomacy. The country has also pledged to defend itself. Meantime, President Trump is warning of additional strikes if U.S. forces are retaliated against. The president's decision to involve the American military directly in this conflict without congressional approval comes just over a week after Israel launched its surprise attack on Iran. And Secretary Hegseth was asked about the possibility of diplomacy moving forward during that press conference this morning. He said that he could only confirm that there were multiple private and public messages being sent to the Iranians and that the administration is giving them every opportunity, he said, to come to the negotiating table. Leticia.
And Jackie, this attack is sparking a lot of debate in Congress. What are lawmakers saying at this point?
Leticia, some Republicans are, praising the president's move. They feel it was a decisive blow against a long-standing adversary of the United States. Others in the GOP, though, are not happy. They don't feel that this is America's fight, and they have raised concerns in recent days that the president is going back on his campaign promise not to entangle the United States in foreign wars in the Middle East. Democrats are also concerned, and they have criticized the president for not seeking congressional approval before launching this military strike on Iran. And in fact, in the coming week, we're expecting to see the Senate take a vote on a resolution that would have required congressional permission before taking these strikes against Iran. One expert told me that it is true lawmakers have over many years increasingly ceded a lot of their war powers to the White House, but this expert told me that this really represents a new level in that trend, and that this is effectively even further testing the limits of presidential power. Leticia.
And Jackie, this is raising concerns that Iran and its allies could retaliate against the United States. What might that look like?
One of the biggest concerns here, Leticia, is that there are tens of thousands of American troops who are serving in the Middle East, many of whom are in range of Iranian missiles. The Pentagon said during that press conference this morning that they are beefing up protections. They couldn't really go into detail about what that actually looks like. But another possibility is that Iran, taps its militant groups, its partners in the region, to respond. The Houthis, for example, ahead of these strikes, said that they would resume attacks in the Red Sea if the United States engaged in this way. Another possibility is that Iran could try to cut off a key bottleneck for the global oil supply. That, if there are disruptions, could send oil prices surging and, of course, trickle down to higher prices at the gas pump here at home. Leticia.
All right. Thank you so much, Jackie, for your live report this morning. We'll check back in with you. Right now, Governor Gavin Newsom responded to the strikes on social media. He says the state's threat assessment center is monitoring for any impacts in California. He says there are no specific or credible threats they are aware of right now, but he urges everyone to stay safe, vigilant, and to report suspicious activity. Law enforcement agencies around the U.S. are also on high alert. The Department of Homeland Security, alongside the FBI and other federal, state, and local agencies, are tracking intelligence for any potential threats. The Sacramento Police Department saying in part, we are monitoring the developing international events and will remain in communication with our local, state, and federal partners. While there is no known threat to our area, we encourage community members to remain vigilant and report any suspicious activity to law enforcement. We are continuing coverage on the tensions in the Middle East. You can visit our website, KCRA.com, for a list of events that unfolded leading up to the U.S. strikes on Iran.